Hello everyone, I'm Jack Fisher and welcome to my world. And like so many other lifelong fans, much of that world revolves around football season and everything leading up to it. Ever since I was a kid, I knew as soon as the calendar turned to August, the new NFL season was officially in sight. Every team was in training camp, the preseason was about to begin, and every fan base had a reason to believe that this year would be their year. It truly is a magical time, and I couldn't be more excited. I've been ready for football ever since early spring, and finally, the wait is almost over. Now, last season certainly had plenty of ups and downs, especially among certain fan bases that I won't single out, or another particular fan base that has nothing to do with football. But I don't want to dwell too much on that. At the very least, let me dwell on what I believe to be the most remarkable fact about the 2023 season. I actually guessed the Super Bowl winner correctly, and for the second time in 3 years no less. Now, it wasn't exactly a bold pick, saying the Kansas City Chiefs would hoist the Lombardi Trophy yet again, but still, I picked correctly. And as someone who has always been terrible at picking winners in any sport, please, just let me have this. But don't get the wrong idea. Me picking the Rams in 2021 and the Chiefs in 2023 should not give anyone the impression that I'm an expert in predicting NFL seasons. I'm still far more likely to be laughably wrong, as is often the case with everyone who tries to predict this crazy league. But that'll never stop me from trying. With the 2024 NFL season almost upon us, I'm going to channel my excitement by predicting every division winner, the course of the postseason, and the eventual victor of Super Bowl 59. I still don't expect to get much right. Uncertainty is the only certainty when it comes to the NFL. Injuries, regression, draft busts, and rookie sensations happen every season. Nobody knows who will come out on top until the Super Bowl confetti starts falling. So with all those doubts and considerations in mind, here are my predictions and picks for the 2024 NFL season. Every year, it seems, the AFC East tries to be less predictable than it has historically been. Because for nearly 20 years, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick essentially guaranteed that the New England Patriots would have this division wrapped up before Christmas. And since 2020, the Buffalo Bills have maintained a powerful grip on that title under quarterback Josh Allen and head coach Sean McDermott. And on paper, the Bills are still the best team in the division. Their offense has been a consistent strength for years now, and their defense got some much-needed help in the secondary with Kareem Jackson and Mike Edwards. But no team in the NFL ever won a single game on paper, and the talent gap between the Bills and the rest of the division has narrowed considerably. In 2023, the New York Jets tried the hardest to close that gap by signing quarterback Aaron Rodgers from Green Bay. He was supposed to be the centerpiece of a loaded Jets team that was ready to compete. But after less than 90 seconds into the first game, Rodgers suffered a season-ending Achilles injury, and the Jets season was lost. And while Aaron Rodgers is set to return in the 2024 season, his age and injury history are a major concern. But if he can make it through more than one series, he'll have a Jets team with a top-tier defense and solid offensive weapons to carry him. He'll even have the benefit of playing a rebuilding New England Patriots team who have finally moved on from Bill Belichick. But even if Rodgers works out with the Jets, and even if the Bills continue their consistent play, I don't think either of them will win this division in 2024, because I think the Miami Dolphins are about to have a banner year. In the past, I've been reluctant to place any confidence in them, largely because of quarterback Tua Tagovailoa's inability to stay healthy. But in 2023, he proved that he could go a full NFL season. He also proved that he could put up big numbers, especially with a receiver like Tyreek Hill stretching the field. Even with injuries, this team made the playoffs last year. And after an offseason that added Odell Beckham Jr. to the roster, I think they'll come out on top this time. It'll still likely be close. I can see this division coming down to the last week of the season, but I believe that the Miami Dolphins will come out on top. The AFC North is another division that has become a lot more interesting to follow in recent years. Instead of just flipping a coin between the Steelers and the Ravens, this may very well be one of the most competitive divisions in all of football. The Cincinnati Bengals have the best quarterback in Joe Burrow. The Browns have the best overall defense led by defensive end Myles Garrett. The Ravens also have a former MVP in Lamar Jackson at quarterback. And the Steelers, under head coach Mike Tomlin, always seem to find a way to win even when they lose major talent. And the 2024 season has plenty of intrigue for this division. The Browns did make the playoffs last year despite quarterback Deshaun Watson's lengthy suspension. Now, he's had a full offseason to put his off-field woes behind him, and the Browns have no more excuses in that regard. But even if they end up playing with a full roster, the Ravens still have Lamar Jackson and a top 10 defense. The Bengals also have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase at wide receiver. However, I don't feel like either of those teams did enough in the offseason to set themselves apart. The Ravens always seem to stall during the latter half of the season, and Joe Burrow, as great as he is, has to come back from a serious injury that few have endured. You could still make the case that both teams have what it takes to win the division, but this time around, I think it'll be the Steelers who make the biggest push. Ever since the retirement of Ben Roethlisberger, the Steelers have struggled to find consistency at quarterback. But in this past offseason, the team made a serious push to finally fill that position. First, they went out and signed Russell Wilson, despite his struggles with the Denver Broncos. Then, they picked up Justin Fields from Chicago. One has played in multiple Super Bowls, the other has shown immense talent but an inability to thrive with the Bears and their never-ending offensive struggles. One of these quarterbacks is going to win that starting job, and whoever it is, I think they will thrive in what has been one of the most consistent, well-run franchises in the history of the NFL. Having capable quarterback play might not cover the team's other lingering deficiencies, but I think it'll be just enough for the Steelers to win a very competitive AFC North Division title in 2024. Whereas some divisions are competitive because every team is good in their own right, the AFC South is different. Ever since the end of the Andrew Luck era in Indianapolis, this division has been in a constant state of flux. Last year, the Colts and the Jaguars seemed poised to take over the division. The Jaguars had Trevor Lawrence at quarterback and a Super Bowl winning head coach in Doug Peterson. And the Indianapolis Colts had a promising new quarterback in Anthony Richardson, who started the 2023 season very strong. But then, Richardson got injured, and the Jaguars underachieved at every turn, especially in the last 2 months of the season. And the team that benefited the most from this chaos was the Houston Texans. Despite starting a rookie quarterback in CJ Stroud, this team became the NFL's latest worst to first story. And even though that seems to happen every year, it's still surprising, seeing a team go from competing for a top draft pick to winning the division and making the playoffs. While I do believe the Texans have found their long-term answer at quarterback, I also suspect that CJ Stroud is going to experience a sophomore slump. There's just no way the Texans are sneaking up on anyone this year, and a tougher schedule will make repeating their previous success difficult, but not impossible. It does help that the Tennessee Titans are very much in a rebuilding mode, and some major injuries that occurred during training camp do not bode well for their prospects in 2024. I think it's far more likely that the Titans will compete for the number 1 overall draft pick than a division title this year. But even if the Titans struggle, I don't see the Texans repeating as division champs. I also haven't seen enough from the Jacksonville Jaguars to believe that they can take the necessary leap. They no longer have the excuse of blaming former coach Urban Meyer, and the more Trevor Lawrence underachieves, the more it seems likely that the team is preparing for yet another rebuild. And that leaves the Indianapolis Colts, a team that still played well after losing their starting quarterback. It might not have been enough to win the division in 2023, but I think if Richardson stays healthy and the team builds on what they've established, they'll win this chaotic division in 2024. I've been saying it since 2020, and I'll keep saying it until I have a valid reason to say otherwise. Patrick Mahomes is awesome. I know he and the Kansas City Chiefs have become the team everyone outside Kansas City loves to hate because they have officially supplanted the New England Patriots as the NFL's evil empire. Always getting the lucky breaks, always competing for a Super Bowl, always making commentators gush over their greatness. And I freely admit that I am also sick of seeing them win so much. But I still can't deny that the Chiefs have built a historically great team under the coaching of Andy Reid and the quarterback play of Patrick Mahomes. And my gut tells me that 2024 isn't going to be much different, at least with respect to how the AFC West plays out. It may actually be easier for the Chiefs this year than it was in 2023. The LA Chargers, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Denver Broncos are all in various stages of rebuilding. Even though the Chargers have Justin Herbert and a new coach in Jim Harbaugh, fresh off a national championship at Michigan, I just don't see them competing with Kansas City this year. This is one case where the talent disparity and the overall stability of the team is just too vast. The same goes for the Broncos and the Raiders. Russell Wilson just did not work in Denver. Coach Sean Payton learned that early on, and he's looking to rebuild the Broncos around a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. The Raiders also realized that too with former coach Josh McDaniels. But with the best quarterback on their roster currently being Gardner Minshew, it's just hard to imagine them competing against the Chiefs. Now, it is true that anything can happen in the NFL. The old adage of any given Sunday still applies. Just ask the 2007 New England Patriots. But if Patrick Mahomes stays healthy, it's just hard to imagine a scenario where the Chiefs don't have this division wrapped up by Christmas, if not sooner. And as much as every other fan base does not want to hear it, it's very likely that the Chiefs will be competing for another Super Bowl in 2024. Every year, I dread having to predict the NFC East. This division has been one of the most frustrating divisions to follow in the past 20 years. Even though it has delivered multiple Super Bowl winners during that span, actually predicting who will win this division has been a case study in unpredictability. In 2023, the Philadelphia Eagles looked like they were going to run away with it early on. But then, the rest of the league figured out quarterback Jalen Hurts and coach Nick Sirianni's offense. In addition, the defense started giving up big plays at the worst possible time. And the Eagles went on to have one of the worst collapses we've seen in years. But in the NFC East, that's just par for the course. And the Dallas Cowboys winning the division was not as impressive as it seemed in 2023. For a while, they were one of the hottest teams in the league. Then, as we've seen many times over the past 2 decades, they utterly fell apart in the playoffs against the Green Bay Packers. Despite having one of the most talented teams on paper, the Cowboys just keep finding ways to underachieve when the stakes are highest. Now, Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy is entering lame duck status, and the pressure is also growing in Philadelphia with Nick Sirianni. The same could easily be said with the New York Giants under coach Brian Daboll. After making the playoffs in 2022, the Giants really regressed in 2023, and quarterback Daniel Jones dealt with injuries that may very well end his tenure in New York. But then, there's the Washington Commanders, the team that has undergone the most change of any team in the NFL from the top down. They entered last season with a new owner, and they're entering 2024 with a new coach, a new GM, and a new rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels. And suddenly, this team that has always been hindered by off-field drama isn't being hindered anymore. And structurally, Washington has the most stability with respect to coaching staff and position battles, something nobody has been able to say with a straight face in decades. Now, that's not to say the Commanders will be dominant this year. I still think this division won't be decided until after New Year's. But throughout the offseason, Washington has been shoring up their roster and their staff, whereas Dallas and Philadelphia are out of excuses. In 2023, it came down to the Cowboys playing well just as everyone else in the division was falling apart. And in 2024, I think it'll come down to one team playing as a cohesive unit when it matters most. And I believe that team will be the Washington Commanders. But again, this is the NFC East, so do keep that in mind. In any given NFL season, there's usually one division that is the most exciting to follow. And in 2024, I suspect the NFC North will be that division. Each team boasts top-level talent. The Minnesota Vikings have the league's best receiver in Justin Jefferson. The Green Bay Packers have one of the youngest rosters in the league, as well as a talented young quarterback in Jordan Love. And the Detroit Lions, yes, those Detroit Lions, finally broke through in 2023, making it all the way to the NFC Championship game. And that's after having not won a playoff game since 1992. But it's the Chicago Bears that offer the most intrigue. After pulling off a series of trades that netted them the #1 overall pick in the 2024 draft, the Bears had one of the best offseasons any team has had in decades. They didn't just draft the best quarterback prospect in a generation with Caleb Williams. They made sure to surround him with quality talent to go along with a revamped defense led by Montez Sweat. In terms of pure talent and potential, the Bears have the most going for them. I know I said that about them last year, but I also overestimated how Justin Fields would progress in an offense that just wasn't catering to his strengths. And as good as Fields was at times, he was never the same prospect as Caleb Williams. Now, it would be tempting to pick the Bears to win the division and make a deep playoff push. Just looking at their roster gives the impression that this team is a contender. But every team in the division can make that case too. The Vikings showed that their offense can keep up with other teams even without quarterback Kirk Cousins. And if Justin Jefferson stays healthy, there's really no defense that can stop him. The Packers are also a young team with a number of unproven players, but they showed in 2023 that they can perform when the stakes are high against the NFL's best. What they may lack in all pros, they make up for with their depth. But it's the Detroit Lions that I feel have the most going for them overall. They are not the same old moribund Lions. Coach Dan Campbell and quarterback Jared Goff overcame a legacy of losing that has hindered this team for decades. And after falling short in the NFC Championship game, I think they'll come back hungrier than ever. And that hunger will carry them to an NFC North Division title. Not long ago, the NFC South boasted 3 teams with Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks in Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, and Tom Brady. But those days might as well be a lifetime ago, because this division has become a refuge for rebuilding rosters and high coaching turnover. There really isn't one team in this division that looks poised for a Super Bowl run, and not one team seems equipped to coast their way to a division title. The Carolina Panthers already look starved for talent, having traded away their first-round pick in 2024, which would have netted them Caleb Williams. And while it's still too early to give up on quarterback Bryce Young, he's on a team that is seriously lacking in talent on both sides of the ball. High coaching turnover and a weak free agent class certainly didn't help. The New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons are in a better situation overall, but not by much. The Saints did invest more on defense in the offseason, signing Chase Young as a free agent and drafting multiple players on the defensive line. But all of that investment depends on quarterback Derek Carr performing better than he has over the past 3 years. And that's hoping for a lot, especially with his growing injury history. As for the Falcons, they might have the edge in terms of overall balance. They have skill players like Chris Olave and Bijan Robinson, but poor quarterback play kept them from going far in 2023. I think that will change with the arrival of quarterback Kirk Cousins. Yes, he's coming off a major injury, but he showed during his tenure in Minnesota that he can move an offense. It's just a matter of how well he picks things up under new coach Raheem Morris. But as good as Cousins has been over the years, I don't think he'll be enough to get the Falcons a division title. I believe that, as bereft as the NFC South might be of contenders, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in the best position among their rivals. Baker Mayfield showed last season that he can still play, and while the Bucs have a roster that's aging in certain areas, they still have enough talent with players like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to get the job done. They didn't make too many flashy free agent signings, nor did they draft any high-profile players. And if they were in any other division, that would be cause for concern. But in the NFC South, the Buccaneers have the most proven roster. They've been to the playoffs, they've beaten playoff caliber teams, and I think they'll win their division this year, but that might be the most that they win. The NFC West is a strange division, but not necessarily in terms of predicting who will win it. The San Francisco 49ers have done plenty to establish themselves as legitimate contenders going back to 2019. I know a lot has been said about quarterback Brock Purdy, being a 7th-round draft pick who still guided his team to a Super Bowl berth. But the 2023 season convinced me that he is for real. This is not a matter of Trent Dilfer riding the defense of the 2000 Ravens to a championship run. Purdy is just an ideal fit for Coach Kyle Shanahan's offense, and coupled with a defense that boasts one of the best defensive lines in football, and they're certainly poised for another championship run in 2024. But this division is not as lopsided as the AFC West. The Los Angeles Rams also made the playoffs last year. And when he's not injured, Matthew Stafford is still a very capable quarterback. And the team has a rising star in Puka Nacua. But with defensive tackle Aaron Donald retiring in the offseason, I don't see the Rams closing the gap with the 49ers in 2024. But that might not be the case with the Seattle Seahawks. They actually surprised me in 2023. After losing quarterback Russell Wilson, they showed that they can still compete with someone like Geno Smith. And while they will have to deal with a new head coach in Mike McDonald, they still have a potent receiving duo in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. But without an equally capable defense, I don't think the Seahawks are ready to challenge the 49ers for the division just yet. They'll certainly keep things interesting. I don't think the 49ers will run away with it this year. This is also one of those divisions where every team seems to raise their game whenever they play one another. That even includes the Arizona Cardinals, who actually overachieved last year under new head coach Jonathan Gannon. When they beat a red-hot Cowboys team last year early in the season, they showed that they are a team on the rise. And if they were in another division, they would probably be capable of competing for a title. But quarterback Kyler Murray hasn't shown that he can stay healthy or play consistently against legitimate contenders. This division is sure to be erratic in 2024, but not in terms of the outcome. The San Francisco 49ers are still the team to beat. They have the roster, the quarterback, and the coaching to win this division. But I don't doubt for a second that they're aiming a lot higher in terms of their goals. Predicting who will win a division is one thing. Predicting the playoff picture before a season even begins, that's a lot trickier by orders of magnitude. Every year, the NFL has a handful of teams that make the playoffs who fell short the previous year. There are also teams everyone thinks are going to be contenders early on, but undergo late season collapses, sometimes due to injury and sometimes just due to poor play. And outside of the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers, I don't think any playoff team from 2023 should feel certain about making the playoffs again in 2024. I think the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Green Bay Packers are most likely to take a step back this year. And teams like the Chicago Bears, the Washington Commanders, and the Indianapolis Colts are likely to make late season playoff pushes. This feels like one of those seasons where a new crop of teams rises to challenge the top contenders from the past few years. Whether it's a resurgent Pittsburgh with a capable quarterback, a resurgent Washington with a competent owner, or a team like Chicago that won a boon of draft picks in the previous years, someone is going to get hot and knock out a team that's expected to contend for a Super Bowl. It's just a matter of whether they're good enough to supplant the 49ers and the Chiefs. And with respect to the 49ers, I think they're the most vulnerable. As good as Brock Purdy has been, he did show some of his vulnerabilities against both the Lions and the Chiefs in the 2023 playoffs. And had the Lions not been overly aggressive in the NFC Championship game, the 49ers might not even have made it to the Super Bowl. By contrast, I don't think there's a team in the AFC that can take down the Chiefs at the moment. I think Pittsburgh and Miami are in the best position for an upset. If either of those teams played the Chiefs in the playoffs, I think they would have the advantage, and not just because so many fans are sick of seeing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But even with that advantage, I still think the Chiefs are just too good at the moment. So long as Mahomes stays healthy and Travis Kelce keeps making clutch plays, I believe the Kansas City Chiefs will once again represent the AFC in Super Bowl 59. But in the NFC, I do not see the 49ers repeating. I think they'll succumb to the Super Bowl hangover that is so common for losing teams. And the team that will best exploit that is the Detroit Lions. They got their first taste of playoff success in 3 decades last year, and I think they liked it. And them winning a berth in Super Bowl 59 would immediately make them sentimental favorites, even among their rivals. But if the Lions want to host the Lombardi Trophy, they'll still have to go through the Kansas City Chiefs. Even if you're the biggest Chiefs hater in the world, there is no question that they're in the midst of a dynasty. Ever since Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid arrived in Kansas City, they've played in 4 Super Bowls and won 3 of them within a 5-year span. You can call it whatever you want, but it's an unambiguous testament to their current dominance. However, no team dominates indefinitely. And coming into Super Bowl 59, the Detroit Lions will have plenty of insights into how to slow them down. They already showed at the beginning of the 2023 season that they can beat the Chiefs. It is possible to keep up with them. And I believe the Lions have the tools to do the same on the game's biggest stage. They'll also have every non-Chiefs fan rooting for them. They will be the biggest sentimental favorites of all time. A team with a legacy of losing, heartbreak, and disappointment, now in a position to win it all. No matter how you feel about the team or the city of Detroit, it almost feels poetic them being the one to put the brakes on the Chiefs dynasty. But the Chiefs will do anything and everything to keep that dynasty going. Andy Reid will come in with a game plan to put up points early and build a lead. And Patrick Mahomes will move the team up and down the field. So I can easily see this game starting off poorly for the Lions, having never been in this position before. But they have shown time and again under coach Dan Campbell that they know how to fight back. They know how to play from behind. And I think in the second half, they will claw their way back into the game, and in doing so, Mahomes will start forcing plays, as he often does when he feels like he needs to put the game out of reach. And the Lions will also make him pay. Because, and this might be the boldest NFL prediction I have ever made, I believe that will be enough to carry the Lions to victory. It will likely come down to one last drive, one where the team lays it all on the line. And whether by a last-minute field goal or a touchdown, the Detroit Lions, yes, those Detroit Lions, will prevail in Super Bowl 59, and the Motor City will party like they have never partied before. Around this time every year, every team in the NFL can make the case that this year will be their year. There are no final scores yet. There's only potential. It's true that there are times when certain teams dominate the NFL regular season and the postseason, but it's also true that dominance one year does not translate to dominance the next. And teams that finished one season in last place can finish the next at the top of their division. Nobody knows for sure how the 2024 season will play out. And even though I have successfully guessed the Super Bowl winner on multiple occasions, nobody should take my prognostications as more valid than anyone else's. And even if I turn out to be dead wrong on every prediction, I still intend to enjoy every glorious moment of this season and the playoffs. Watching NFL football isn't just a nice way to pass the time on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday night. It's very much a part of my life as a fan. There are so many storylines to follow among players and teams. There are also a very limited number of games, so every win matters, every loss matters just as much, and how it all plays out, that's just part of the greater narrative that is sports. So whatever ultimately happens in the 2024 NFL season, whoever is destined to win Super Bowl 59, I can safely say that I am so ready for some football. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for joining me in my world. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, take care and stay safe.